What perfectly true story of yours sounds like an outrageous lie? I once nearly killed my older brother with a spear. He and I were playing cowboys and Indians, and being the only one with a BB gun, he was by default the cowboy. I had about a 5-foot long stick sharpened to a dull point on one end, and was the Indian. He walked up to me somewhere in Georgia, where I had a pair of shorts between me and the Lord, and shot me point blank with that BB gun barrel full of sand, and then took off running. He went across the yard, turned right at the fence, and continued running hard away from me. I didn't even think about the consequences, took the spear, and made a javelin throw that an Olympian would be proud of, and hit him in the back of the neck at between 35 and 40 yards away. He faceplants with the spear standing upright like a proud flag I had planted on the moon, then the spear falls over. The tip of the spear went between two vertebrae in his neck. The spear fell because the tip broke off in his neck. I celebrated the victory, then walked over to see what remained. We ended up in the emergency room, where the doctors decided not to operate, but rather to let the spear point work its way out on its own. It took 25 years to completely do that. My punishment for this act was that I received a BB gun, figuring that the worst I could do with that was to put his eye out, but that at least we would be on level footing in combat. Child rearing in the 60s was a different thing, and having a big family built-in spares helped a lot. My house was broken into while I was asleep on the couch in the living room. I captured my would-be burglar with a battle axe replica that my roommate had on the wall. I made him clean one only in his own phone, since I cold and hold onto him, and the axe and the phone at the same time. He tried to get away a few times. A very suppressed one and dispatcher sent the police, who eventually got there, arrested my prisoner, and thanked me for not chopping him up. I received a car as a tip while working as a Sikh-tail waitress, without extra service. I found out he had overheard me talking to co-workers about not having a car and lining up rides. Also, I was trying to save money to go back to college, since I did poorly the quarter before. Yes, still on the quarter system, and my parents stopped footing the bill. He paid his tab with his 2 friends and left me a $50 tip. Note, this was over 15 years ago, and the tip was almost the cost of the bill. The car was delivered to me at work the next day by his lawyer, and I never saw the man again. At first I wouldn't accept it, because I wondered his motives and what strings would be attached. The lawyer assured me it was just a kind gesture and his client wanted nothing in return other than that I return to school and finish my degree. Now, it wasn't a fancy flashy, brand new car, but it was still a car, only couple years old. Come to find out, the man owned quite a few car dealerships as well as all of the company. I will not name the area. I never tell this to people, because hell, I probably won't believe it either. I went to visit a friend who lives out of state recently. She's pretty broke most of the time, since she's a barista, but she had a new car, and when I asked where she got it from, she said that one of her regular customers, but not one she was particularly close with or had even ever talked to before, had overheard her complaining about her old one breaking down, and asked if she wanted to borrow his while he went out of town for a couple months. She had accepted and expected him to come by to get it in early July. This was in August, and as far as I know he still, now in late September, hasn't come to get that car back. Rich people are weird. I almost choked to death trying to warm up a frog I had picked up. It was early spring, and I'd found a small frog moving slowly along my parents' pond. I picked it up and cupped it in my hands and held it up in my hands to breathe warm air on it, and it jumped into my mouth. It lodged in my throat and I could feel it struggling as I hawked it up. One time, someone accidentally shipped me $20,000 worth of boa constrictors. That was a very surprising day, lol. Edit. Since so many people are asking, I figured I'd tell the story. I did buy a single boa worth way less than $20K from this breeder, but he mixed up the shipping label with that of a gentleman who purchased a high-end breeding colony. There were 11 designer boas in the box, and they all made it safely to their intended recipient in the end. Now, the boa I bought was almost killed by an idiot FedEx driver during the mix-up, but that's a different story. Edit 2. Okay, the gist of the second story is that despite having a guaranteed delivery time of before 10 AM, the delivery guy left her in the back of his truck until near 6 PM on a 95-degree day. By the time we tracked him down, actually had to call them and intercept the driver. She was in bad shape, ataxic, severely dehydrated. She cold told her body up. The stress caused her to develop a respiratory infection, which took 2 months of injectable antibiotics to treat. Happily, she recovered fully and is doing well today. I met a man who I can only describe as a face-tattooed drug dealer, constantly dressed in all black on the psych ward, and would come in smelling of weed. Anyway, this ducker could just hold out his hand and birds would come to him. All kinds too, like chickadees, seagulls, and magpies. No food, no bait, nothing, just his open hand, and he could do it on command. He was like some sort of goth Disney princess. I spent 2 years as a child in a Christian school in Guatemala that turned out to be a cult. They would lock us up for weeks in tiny cages isolated out in the jungle because we were suspected of having bad thoughts in berberis. I watched a man with 2 peg legs walk up a harbor ramp at low tide. It was one of the singly most inspirational events I've witnessed. Edit. Harbor ramps connect land to the docks, which move up and down on pilings as the tide changes. When the tide is out, the ramp is at a steep incline. At high tide, the ramp is nearly level with the land. This particular incident occurred on an abnormally low tide, where the ramp was at a near 90-degree angle. I did not offer help, as clearly a man with 2 pegged legs is the captain of his own vessel. He achieved this great feat of human mastery by placing one peg in front of the other while using the railing as leverage in pure grit and determination for traction. He offered a level glance at me as I passed him on my way down, and the heavy rain motivated us forward without conversation. I've mentioned his story to people before, and invariably the response is either "I know of him" or "FCK off, let's get whiskey drunk." Any more of his story that I know is lost to the walls of dingy fishing bars that were once saloons. Almost 20 years ago, my father sold his photo camera to buy some booze. He was an alcoholic and an abusive piece of shit, among other equally funny things. Inside the camera bag there was a piece of paper with a hand-made aperture and shutter speed chart. I had drawn little circles in that paper when I was a child. Fast forward 15 years. There's a pawn shop near the place where I work, and from time to time I go there to see what hidden gems I can find. One day there was a camera that looked quite similar to the one my father sold. I bought it on a whim, without even checking if it worked properly, just because it looked like the one he undersold. Once at home, I took a closer look, cleaned it properly, and searched the bag. Yes, you know where this is going. There it was, the paper with the chart and my little circles in blue biro. I sat on the sofa for a moment, just to let that WTF moment sink in. That camera is now in a place of honor among my other cameras. Edit. Wow, this is my highest rated comment ever. That you very much. Edit 2. Some of you asked for a pic of the camera. Here it //imga.com/a/tires6 edit 3. English is not my first language. Please don't look too close at my grammar and writing skills. I'm working on it. My dad tried to smuggle a diamond out of Sierra Leone, but the guys helping him get it through customs ran off with the diamond. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect to get this kinda response. Here's the full story for those who want to know. So my dad was working for a company that works in mining in Africa. He went out to inspect how the Sierra Leone operation was running. While over there he bought a diamond off a local chief who worked with the company. He bought it for much lower than its actual worth, so decided not to declare at customs and try and smuggle it through. People at the company told him what to do: pay off one guard and give him the diamond. He would then meet another guard with the diamond beyond all the checks. The second guard never showed, and that's the story. My grandfather brought a sword to the office and tried to behead my dad for a poor quarterly performance. Family businesses are tough. My grandfather has Alzheimer's/dementia, not sure. Asian family in Asia. Everyone denies mental issues, and before that incident, our family didn't know he was unraveling. Edit. Yeah, this story is so incredible that the whole family was in a dilemma about what to say to the doctor/lawyer/banker/etc. when they needed to declare my grandfather was mentally unfit to make his own decisions. My dad was going, what do I tell them? My dad tried to kill me with a sword? Who's going to believe this? I mean, even my dad thought the calls he got from his employees were part of a prank. went to the office, got stopped by the freaked out security guards asking him what they should do, and finally realized it was for real. Everyone just hid and waited it out until my grandfather got tired of waiting and went home. It even took a few more crazy incidents before the entire family believed my dad. Most of his siblings thought it was an elaborate ploy to take over the company for the longest time, and it nearly turned into a crazy court case. A friend of mine told me about how he went to KFC and they ran out of chicken. The churches around the corner was flooded, and the guy in the back was like, "Did KFC run out of chicken again?" Like this happens on some sort of regular basis. Moving interstate, all our belongings on the little trailer. Pulled over the side of the road so my so could pee. Too close to the side of the road, and the trailer slid down a small ditch. Not enough to wreck the car, but too steep for our little car to pull out. Next thing you know, a white minibus pulls up, and out jumps a half dozen guys who were a weightlifting team from I think Argentina. It was 25 years ago, not sure now. They lifted our trailer up onto the road, climbed back in their van, and drove off. Vanilla Ice left me a happy birthday voicemail. 15 years ago, I was friends with a guy who is a professional guitar tech and travels all over with different bands. He was in Miami with a fairly successful band, and Vanilla was at the show. Later, on the tour bus, my friend called me at like 3 AM to wish me happy birthday and handed the phone over to Vanilla Ice and he wished me happy birthday. Unfortunately, my service provider's voicemail system only allowed you to save a message for 7 days, and I couldn't figure out how to save it any other way, so it's disappeared into the ether. Spencer Horseman, the magician from America's Got Talent, lives in Baltimore and performs at a bar in the city. We went and saw him perform. He was great. After the show I had to use the bathroom, and as I'm peeing, he comes in to pee as well. I go over and wash my hands and they have one of those hand blowers that is activated by hand motion. I say, "Hey Spencer, check this trick out." I wave my hands in front of the blower and say abracadabra and it starts. I turn and say, "See, I can do magic as well." Guy started laughing hysterically. Lived alone for a year when I was 8. TLDR, first generation Asian immigrants. Mom goes back to the motherland to renew US visa. Gets stuck. I'm sent back ahead of time thinking it was going to be a couple-week delay. Family friends helped me get settled back into a routine for school. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into a year. Mom comes back to find me 40 PDS heavier cause 8-year-old me was eating 3 frozen dinners a night. Also almost burned down the house at least on 4 separate occasions. Discovered unlimited amounts of pronoun. And my father was a piece of shit. Would you get the money to buy food? Where was your dad this whole time? My brother landed a golf ball on a coffee cup after it ricocheted off the clubhouse ceiling and a policeman's forehead. This happened when my older brother was around 15. He learned how to play golf from my dad, a gold geek, since young, and after a number of lessons, he became good enough to play a 9-hole course with dad and the adults. Now, at this hole I can't remember what number, not a golf fan. He hit the ball too hard and sent it flying toward the clubhouse. Normally this would not be a problem, since there was a net protecting the house from foreign, unwanted balls like this. However, there was a tiny hole in a section of the net and the ball went through it. After a couple of seconds, they heard people screaming from the clubhouse. Apparently, the ball went into the clubhouse, hit the ceiling 2 times, bounced off on forehead of a well-respected policeman who was just resting after playing a course, and landed on a cup of coffee he was sipping. The impact was softened by the ricochet, but still enough to leave a bruise mark on his forehead. Needless to say, my father panicked and kept apologizing to the policeman. Fortunately, he was patient enough to see that this is no more than an epic coincidence. The story became the topic in the golf club for a couple of weeks though, and my brother did not play a game for months. I still think that my brother should have bought some lottery tickets that week with that kind of luck.